This video is partially made possible by Gigabyte.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another video review. Today we're gonna have a look at the Gigabyte Z68X-UD4-B3 motherboard. So here it is, the Gigabyte Z68UD4-B3 motherboard. Hopefully the first of many motherboards to be reviewed here at CCReviews. Now let's get right to it. So first off, what they include with this motherboard is a bunch of cables. Well, actually 4 cables. The SATA cable, so all of these here, and let me just take them like that separately. So you get 2 of these straight ones, and you get 2 of these bended ones, and these are both SATA 2 and SATA 3 cables. Then you get an SLI bridge, and what's really nice about this bridge is that it's in black and not in brown, so that really fits with the motherboard, so that's a nice detail. And of course you get the I/O shield. So Gigabyte has made a very nice looking motherboard here using their black PCB, which has, by the way, 2 times more copper in it compared to normal PCBs for a more solid and cooler board. There's also the dark grey heatsinks and actually overall very nice and stealthy colored theme of black and grey colors. Now let's have a closer look at this motherboard by starting off with the top of the motherboard. And here on the top you have the 8-pin power connector for the CPU power. You have a fan connector, and there are in total 3 excluding the CPU fan connector, and one of those connector is a 4-pin connector, and this one is near the SATA ports. This is the 1155 CPU socket, and around it you can see all the chokes and capacitors, and these are, by the way, Japanese capacitors. And about right next to this all you have the 4 sockets for dual channel DDR3 RAM, which supports speeds up to 2133 MHz. And here there are 4 small LEDs, and these indicate how much load there is on your CPU. The higher the loading, the more LEDs will be lit. Here you have the 24-pin power connector, and then there are in total 4 SATA connectors. You have 4 SATA 3 and 4 SATA 2 connectors, and I'll tell you a few cool things about this further in the review. Then on the bottom you have your front panel connectors, a USB 3 connector for headers like these, a total of 3 USB 2 connectors, your COM connector, a FireWire connector, and your front panel audio. Underneath this heatsink, by the way, is the Intel Z68 chipset. What's so special about this chipset is that it allows the CPU to use its onboard graphics while there are other graphic cards installed to give it all an extra boost. This also reminds me that I can't forget to point out something else, that there is no North bridge. And this means that not everything has to run through the CPU, which leads to more efficient and faster CPU usage. You should also note that the Sandy bridge architecture on this motherboard is not as flexible as, for instance, the Nehalem architecture. So in theory they're a bit harder to overclock, but don't worry because you can still use Turbo Boost 2, which is the newer version of Turbo Boost. And this one is more flexible and more aggressive than the previous one. And then you also got the K edition CPUs, which can help a lot. Now continuing our look at the motherboard, as you can see there's a total of 6 expansion slots. You've got 4 PCI Express slots, 1 PCI Express X16, 1 PCI Express X8, so you can do a SLI or a Crossfire setup on that, and 2 PCI Express X1s. And then there's also the 2 normal PCI expansion slots. To remove a graphics card, by the way, in the PCI Express X16 or X8 slot, you simply press the latch and you can take out the card like that. It's very easy. Then having a look at the back panel connectors, there's 1 PS2 keyboard and mouse port, 1 coaxial and 1 optical SPDIF out connector, 7 USB 2 ports, 2 USB 3.0 ports, a FireWire port, an eSATA or USB combo connector, an eSATA 6GB per second connector, a Gigabit LAN port, and your 7.1 channel audio jacks. Now there is of course a lot more to this motherboard than just connectors and expansion slots and such. First off, I'll talk about the cool option which you get with the setup connectors on this board. This is Intel Smart Response technology. This basically means that you can use an SSD from 20 up to 60 GB in size together with an HDD of practically any size, and use the SSD as cache drive. This combination could make your system 4 times faster than other systems with only an HDD and almost similar in speed to an SSD only system. So this is a perfect technology in case you want to upgrade your system when you only have an HDD, but want a faster computer and you don't want to spend loads of money on a big SSD, or you don't want to reinstall your entire system. Also, the reason why these SATA3 connectors here have other colors is because two of these are controlled by another chipset. So basically, these two here are controlled by the Z68 Intel chipset, and then Gigabyte fiddled around a bit and added a bit more chipset from Marvel, and that one controls the other two SATA3 connectors here. And then there is of course the BIOS, of which you can see two chips here. And these are two chips because of the dual BIOS technology. This is a technology that automatically recovers your BIOS data when the main BIOS crashes or fails, which could happen due to overclocking, viruses, or bad updates or whatnot. A second feature that comes with this dual BIOS technology is that you can have a hard drive that is bigger than 3 TB being used as a boot device. To get higher switching frequencies and get a bit more of power efficiency and use less space on the motherboard, the voltage regulator modules are designed a bit differently. Gigabyte designed the driver MOSFET, which actually requires 50% less mounting area on the motherboard, so that there is also more space for other things. Gigabyte also thought about sound here. With a better chip they give better HD audio, which is comparable to the sound which comes from a sound card. Another detail is the on-off charge technology, which I really like. This allows you to charge USB devices through your motherboard using the X3 USB power ports, whether your computer is on or off. Now there are still some technologies, but mainly software, which I have to cover, like the BIOS itself, Cloud OC, and many more things, and just all in all, the software they include. Now, as Gigabyte has sent us this motherboard in for review, it was also sent to us as part of our new test system, which I'm going to start building and installing right after this review. So you can expect a part 2 of this video a bit later. It won't be immediately though, due to a summer break and because I'll have to run some tests on this new system, etc. But when the next part is out, I'll place an annotation here somewhere, and you will find it between your subscription videos if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. So stay tuned and expect more on this motherboard in an upcoming video. I'll see you guys then.